In a quiet town where life moved slowly and every day felt the same, there was a place where dreams seemed bigger than the sky itself. It was the kind of town where everyone knew each other, and yet, some stories remained unspoken. Among those quiet streets, two souls were growing up together, Ethan Carter and Olivia Bennett. They met when they were just children, too young to understand what life really meant, but old enough to know that they never wanted to be apart. They weren't just friends. They were the kind of bond people search for their entire lives. From running freely through open green fields, feeling the wind brush past their faces, to sitting for hours under that old banyan tree, talking about nothing and everything at the same time. Every moment they shared felt simple, but somehow unforgettable. They laughed at things no one else understood, like they had their own little world, a world where nothing else mattered. And in that small world, they found comfort, not in words, but in presence. Just being near each other was enough. Days turned into months, and months slowly turned into years. But one thing never changed. They were always there, for each other. And somewhere, between those countless small moments, something began to change. Something neither of them spoke about, but both of them felt. Their friendship, slowly, quietly, turned into something deeper, something stronger, something that felt like love. But as time passed, things began to feel different, not in a way they could explain, but in a way they could feel. In the silence between their conversations, and in the way their eyes met, just a little longer than before. There were moments when everything around them seemed to disappear, and it was just the two of them, standing in a world of their own. A simple touch, a brush of hands, would leave their hearts racing, faster than ever before. But neither of them spoke about it, because what they had was too important to risk changing. One evening, as the sky turned golden, they found themselves walking side by side, with no destination, just enjoying the moment. The wind was soft, and the world felt calm, as if time itself had slowed down, just for them. And then it started to rain. At first, just a few drops, and then a gentle shower. They stood there, laughing, not running away, not hiding, just living in that moment together. Ethan opened his umbrella, and without a word, Olivia stepped closer, closer than ever before. Their shoulders touched, their hands almost met, and for a moment, everything felt different, not confusing, not scary, just real. But even then, they stayed silent, because some feelings are too deep to be spoken out loud. Days passed, but that moment in the rain stayed with them. Neither of them spoke about it, but neither of them forgot it either. Something had changed, something quiet, but impossible to ignore. They still met every day, still laughed the same way, but now, there was something more, hidden between their words. One evening, as the sun slowly disappeared beyond the hills, they found themselves back, under the old banyan tree, the same place where their story had grown, from simple beginnings into something deeper. They sat beside each other, closer than usual, but still not close enough to say what they felt. The air was calm, the world was silent, as if everything around them was waiting. Ethan looked at Olivia, wanting to say something, but the words never came out. And Olivia, she felt it too. That moment where everything could change, if only one of them spoke. But instead, they both smiled, pretending everything was the same. And maybe that's what made it even more real, because sometimes love doesn't need words. It lives in silence, in stolen glances, in moments that pass, but never truly fade. As the sky turned darker, and the first stars began to appear, Ethan finally spoke, softly, almost like he was afraid the moment would break. No matter what happens, we'll always stay like this, right? Olivia looked at him, her heart full, but her voice calm, and she nodded. Yes, always. A simple promise. But in that moment, it meant everything. But life doesn't always follow promises. Days turned into weeks, and slowly, reality began to change things. Ethan received an opportunity, a chance to leave the town, and build something bigger, a future he had always dreamed of. It was everything he had worked for, and yet, it didn't feel complete, because this time, it meant leaving something behind, leaving someone behind. Olivia knew it too. Even before he said a word, she could feel that something was about to change. When he finally told her, there was silence, not because she didn't care, but because she cared too much. She smiled, not to hide her feelings, but to protect his. You should go, she said softly. This is your dream, and you deserve it. Ethan looked at her, wanting her to stop him, wanting her to say, stay, but she didn't, because love sometimes means letting go. The day of departure came, faster than either of them expected. The station was quiet, yet their hearts were louder than ever. So many words, left unspoken, so many feelings, left unfinished. They stood there, not as strangers, but not quite the same as before. Ethan picked up his bag, hesitating, waiting for something, anything, to change. Olivia stepped closer, her eyes holding everything she couldn't say out loud. For a moment, time stood still, and then the train arrived. The sound broke the silence, like reality pulling them apart. Ethan took a step back, then another, his eyes never leaving hers. And Olivia, she stood there, watching, holding on to that moment, as long as she could. No goodbye, no final words, just a look that said everything. As the train slowly began to move, distance replaced presence. And just like that, their world changed. Not because they stopped loving each other, but because life had taken them in different directions. And sometimes, that's all it takes to turn a beautiful story into a memory